Welcome to the Choir Directors Academy. I am your host, Angela Elaine, Choir Directress, whatever they want to call me. It's good to see you all out there. This is, let me throw in a disclaimer. Me being a law student, I was going to be a lawyer, but I changed over. I always put disclaimers out there. This is not, let me say, this is not a bashing session. I am not bashing leadership, the male gender, the female gender, or anything like that. This is really a forum for us to learn and to bring some things to the forefront that are issues with some choir directors. I mean, and I try to cover everything. So if the guys, the directors, if they want to discuss something on their side, I will bring in a male director and have him to shed some light so that we can understand. You know, so a lot of times things are done and said, and a lot of times we're not even realizing that those things are in us. Our thoughts, processes, they're in us, and they operate, and we don't know why. And I think usually we let the emotions build up, and then when we do discuss it, it's like a crescendo. It's almost like a perfect storm. You know, I mean, when you discuss something with a tremendous amount of emotions, it's going to get misconstrued and things are going to be said, and it's just going to get all heated and things like that. This particular topic, this is the first like real controversial topic that I'm discussing, is because I did get a note from one of the directors, one of the directresses that watches the Choir Directors Academy faithfully, and she talked to me about mentioned to me about her issues, and she said, would this be something that you can discuss? I'm experiencing a particular thing. Can you address this? And I guess in hopes that maybe whoever she's dealing with may see the show as well and act accordingly. Okay, Sister Melissa. Hey, Beatrice. Hey, Professor Tim. You know, I got to get Professor. Maybe I'll let you talk about that. But no, I think I gave you another subject to talk about. Hey, Cuzzo, Daryl Dickinson. Melissa, what did you say? She says she prefers female directors. Come on. Sister Melissa D. Green. Let's not. Okay, but I did want to throw that out there. This is not a bashing. This is not anything like that. But I just really want to bring it to light, and you all can share your thoughts, and we'll discuss them. We will discuss them, and we'll bring them up, and see what we can do. First of all, when we think let's just be honest. There is a disparity between directresses, female, and directors, and a lot of time and it does stem from the Bible, when God, because if you think about it, before Adam and Eve bit the fruit, she was his helpmeet, she was on his side, just as equal. God did not make one above the other, but after the fruit was bitten and they disobeyed the will of God, then he made her to come subject. And I think sometimes we forget, even though he made us subject, that he didn't make us any less inferior. Brain wise, we can do a lot of different things. And this is not a forum to try to prove that women can do just as good of a job as a man. No, that's not what we're doing. We just want to bring some things to light, because sometimes we see some things from one side and we really should be looking at it from another. Okay, so it was brought up to me, about women directresses, and are we being treated fairly? For the most part, hey, Demetria. Exactly, Sister Melissa. Whatever director is working under the anointing, it would be spectacular. Hey, little brother, my Keisha. Hey, how you doing? Okay, first of all, let's just cut to the chase. We know that there is a difference, but why is there a difference? Number one, perception. Perception. That's the top layer right there. Perception. What people perceive of us in whatever job we're doing. Okay? Whatever it is. But we're talking choir directors, music directors right now. Number one, the female directresses are perceived to be emotional. And a lot of times these concepts come about not because we are emotional, but maybe the person that they dealt with, they may have had a bad experience, just like we've had a bad experience with a director, and they just automatically assume, okay, I had this bad experience with this female, so it's going to be the same way with this directors, and that's wrong. You cannot generalize, and we're going to get more into that, but you can't generalize people and say, so goes one, so goes the other. That's not fair. But generally, they think, number one, we are emotional. Number two, we're indecisive. Here's a rehearsal code. Who sings this? Is it on YouTube? Translate. I'm about to. Natalie, are you messing with me? She's another phenomenal pianist and director. I'm going to get to that in a second. Number two, because Natalie's starting with me already. Number two, we're indecisive. See, you're almost making me look like I'm indecisive, but we're indecisive. We can't make a decision, and, it's like, okay, we do this today, this minute, and then we change over to something else, and not knowing our counterparts, the male directors, they do the same thing. They just do it differently. Number three, female directresses are held to a higher standard. We are held to a higher standard. We are expected to be on point. They may be a little lax with our counterpart. They may overlook a few things with our counterparts, but generally with the female, us, we have to dress the part. We have to speak the part. We have to, be knowledgeable in all areas of music. We need to know, you need to know the Nashville method. You got to know how to sight read, but you need to know the Nashville method. One, when you see them doing 3 and 4 and 5, 2, 1, 3, you need to know that, and you need to be able to call it out real good. Not sit there when they say 1, which is the first root chord, and you're sitting there looking like, you can't do that. So we have to be knowledgeable. They hold us to a higher standard. We have to be able to teach parts flawlessly. When you come to, you have to be prepared at all times. We have to be, it's like we're in this constant level of trying to prove that I am good at what I do. And it's just a fact. That's just what it is. And a lot of times we have to call these things out because sometimes people are not aware. I'm finding that out, in this new role that I'm in. I'm finding out that sometimes people are just not aware that they're thinking, a lot of things that we think about each other, about ourselves, or about somebody else is subconscious. Somebody deposited that seed. Could have been when you were a child, could have been when you were a teenager, or whatever your age is. Somebody could have deposited that seed and you not know it's in there. And then over time it germinates and grows. And subconsciously you follow those things until somebody points it out. All right, let me go back and read what Natalie said. Angeline, here's a rehearsal code. Who sings this? Is it on YouTube? Translation. I'm about to tune you out for the next 15 minutes of you running parts. If I think of it, I will try to hear my part through the holes in the bottom of my phone. Nope, not even. Apparently, that's something that Natalie endures. And it's true. Sometimes they turn you off. In my case, I give them the YouTube stuff before. So when you get to rehearsal, we don't have to deal with that. But that's true. Sister Melissa says, I've been seeing a lot of women direct like they're asleep. They're probably exhausted, tired. It's a very difficult job. Natalie says, prep is of the utmost importance. Yes, it is. And Sister Melissa says, I agree, so much has changed since I directed a choir. I'll be watching like what the world, hitting on top of the head, thumb to the back. Yeah, it's all kinds of signals, but we have to be a cut above. It's a lot of different changes that have taken place. And like I said, this is not a bashing thing, but I'm just bringing it to the forefront so that you want people to understand, because we have a lot of pastors and first ladies and bishops and people watching this, and they listen. They tell me that they're listening to me. So I want to make sure that I remove all emotion, and it's not a bashing, but it's just to bring some things forward. And sometimes we are treated unfairly is because we're really not the first choice for the job. How many times have we endured that? Where we're not, they will prefer somebody else, but there's nobody else, so then we stick you in the job. And let me just throw another disclaimer out there. I happen to be the music president for my jurisdiction, and I don't have that issue, thank God. I don't have that issue. They all love and respect me, and they give me the respect and the honor that I'm due for what I have done. Now, yes, I do have a trail of what, winning How Sweet the Sound, doing it, being in concerts, being in competitions and winning and all of that kind of stuff. All those things follow you. And it's unfortunate that, a lot of times we have to have a lot of things in our repertoire. Not everybody, but some of us do. But I'm blessed to be in a jurisdiction that accepts me, and they do whatever they can to help me out. And I appreciate my bishop and the music department that I work for. But I do understand that everyone else is not blessed to be able to be in that type of environment. Some of us have experienced, like my friend Demetria has experienced severe negativity. Even what Natalie mentioned, you sometimes you get disrespected in rehearsals because they don't want to pay attention because you're a female, or because you remind them of somebody. Your voice can remind them of somebody. Your speech, your mannerism. Like I said, preconceived notions. When they walk in, you can have a bad experience with one and you assume that you're going to have the same with others, not realizing that you're dealing with two different people. Everybody is not of the same temperament. That's a concept that people have to understand. All directors, male directresses, women are not the same. Everybody is not at the same, I don't want to say immature level, but maturity level. Some people are higher up as far as maturity is concerned, so a lot of things you won't have to deal with. The outburst. But if we really look at it on the other side, our counterparts, the male directors, they have outbursts. They have things going on. They say things. They have the same thing going on that we do. It's just perceived differently. Okay? Is that clear? Is that good enough and clear for everybody? It's just perceived differently. But those four things are paramount when you're dealing with a directress. And it doesn't mean, and sometimes we have to be careful as directresses that we don't allow those factors to put us under stress or duress, and that we fall into the trap of what they're expecting us to do. You understand what I'm saying? It's like I already know that I have that stigma, or I have that pressure of expectation from them, but I refuse to let it overtake me. You know what I'm saying? You cannot fight your enemy if you don't know the mindset, the strategy that they're using. Now that you know that that's what they expect of you, they expect you to be emotional, they expect you to be indecisive, they're holding you to a higher standard because of that. And then, the possibility that you may not be who they really want in the job. So when you know those things and you're made aware of them, then you do what you can to avoid falling into that trap. All right. Demetria says she had to walk out to keep from cussing and snatching it back off. Demetria, this is a very touchy subject for her. Demetria, bring, come on, sis, bring it in, bring it in. But then on the flip side, there are benefits to having. I've gotten that side as well. When I was reading some of the notes from earlier, Natalie left a comment, and she was saying, as far as directresses, we are loved, but we're not respected as much. Beverly Ann said, to me, they are more tolerated. The gift is loved, but if she didn't have the gift of the talent, she may not even be tolerated in some instances. And that's true. Hey, Lady of Wisdom. And that's true. But you know what? Again, when you know how you're being perceived, that's the best position to be in on defense. Not be defensive in your actions and your emotions, but be defensive in the case that you prepare yourself to be against it. No, we shouldn't have to do that. But then this is the world. This is how it is. And then our counterparts, they have their own mechanisms that they need to deal with. But you have to understand your environment and what you're dealing with and be able to deal with it. Natalie, what are you saying? You have to understand your choir members too, because some of them can take honest criticism from anyone, male or female. And that's another part. That's where the emotionalism comes in, where people, when you say something, your counterpart can say it, and it's received, and it's like, oh, okay. But you can say the same thing in a sweeter voice with no emotions, and it's perceived like you're being cranky. You're just picking on me. You're this and you're that. But my main thing is that we know this before I go to the good side, okay? Please don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of knowing what is going on and you reacting accordingly. You don't need to do that. As a matter of fact, even in just life general, when like we have to contend with the stigmas of the world, of who you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. There's a stigma that is associated with, well, we all humans. Should I say your nationality or your ethnic group? There's a stigma that is associated. It doesn't matter what color you are. There's a stigma that's associated with it. And you have to have wisdom and understanding to take that what they're saying, turn it around and use it to propel you to greater. You understand? That's the best position to be, to understand what they're thinking and God give you wisdom on how to strategize to use it to your advantage. You understand and I mean, for me, that's kind of how I think. I know how you feel and what you're thinking. So all you're doing is I'm able to set up a defense, just like in the movie Gladiator. When you seen Maximus, when they put them all together and they had, I don't know, was a battle or something. But anyway, all of them came out with the chariots because he already knew the mindset of the enemies. He was able to rally them and tell them what to do, how to do at the right time, because he already knew. Use that knowledge to your advantage. And I hope I'm helping the young lady that had this problem or this issue or this question. She brought it up. But on the flip side of all of this, there are some people that think they love having a directress as opposed to a director. Number one, they feel that directresses are very knowledgeable. So Natalie says, yes, wisdom won't let them take you to that snapping point. Exactly. You got to have wisdom. Solomon prayed for wisdom, and we have to pray for wisdom in dealing with this. Knowledgeable. They said that female directors are very knowledgeable. And generally we do. We have to be knowledgeable in order to teach a unit. Sometimes some people can fake it. And you sitting there like, we've seen that. Come on. We've seen that where we can play, we can sing, we're more like a triple or quadruple threat. You can play, you can sing, and you can direct. You're a threat, right? And you've been in situations where you're sitting there and then your counterparts are sitting there. They don't know any of what you're doing. They can't play, they can't teach, and they can barely direct. And you can do all of it, but yet when they do it, it's like, it's like, oh my God, really? Like he parted the Red Sea, and the choir can be flawless when you do it. Because you giving the signals, you got the emotions, you got the whole 9 yards working in your favor. But it's like, but they say that they like it because the female directors or directresses are more knowledgeable. Number two, they said they're more caring and nurturing. If I can't get my part, they try to figure out a way to interpret it so that I can. They try to do things to help me out, to learn. That's why they like, directresses. And one thing people tend to forget, and this goes both ways, but they think that the directresses don't have it, is an analytical ability. Yeah, because they see music as a creative format. But let's get to the baseline here. Music, if you really break it down, is mathematics. You cannot do mathematics unless you're analytical. That's part of the job. The timing, the 2/4, 3/4, 9/8, counting the note values, playing according to that, having the rhythmic methods. People don't realize that in order to be a musician, a director, and even a singer, there's a baseline for mathematics, but especially when you're teaching music and when you're playing music, it's all mathematics. And that's why generally music majors can play. They usually work hand in hand. Usually when there's somebody that can play an instrument pretty well, generally they're good in math. Generally, there are exceptions to the rule, okay? There are exceptions to the rule. But generally, they're very good in math, which means you're analytical, okay? Which means you're a thinker. You don't react to everything. You're sitting there. Look, being a choir director, you know, people may not think about it, but you are a strategist. What else are you doing when you're sitting there analyzing the service, trying to come up with a song that fits what's going on? They're dead. They're sitting there. Nobody's moving. Half the people are asleep. You need to sing a song to wake them up. So what are you doing? You're sitting there watching the faces. Okay, this one looks sad. This one looks like this. That one looks... You're analyzing. Yeah. You got to analyze and see what's going on. You're watching everybody. You feel the flow of the Spirit, and what do? Give me a song. So you're going in your mind. You're thinking, what would be the most appropriate song for us to sing to get this service jump-started? Or statistics. Exactly, Demetria. Statistics. But somewhere there's an analytical background working. You know, it's like, you know, like the computer is going and they say in the background when they have a little virus protection, it said, don't worry about what's going on. You keep doing what you're doing. The virus protection is working in the background. Analysis, critical thinking is working. Exactly. Critical thinking is working in the background. So you cannot be... Oh, y'all just made me go scientific. I didn't want to go there. But you do have, you know, and directresses are just as analytical as what? I mean, most of them, you know, they're running households. So you got to be kind of, you know, you got so much for grocery. You analyze and figure out, how can I get the most of the bang out of this buck? Come on. That's analysis. Whether you went to college or not, that's analysis. And we do that all the time. We have to change the perception of ourselves. A lot of times we in ourselves think, I'm not capable of doing it. But you know what? Gifts and callings are without repentance. He didn't say only the men have a musical gift. Let's go back to, I know people don't like to talk about the Old Testament, but let's go back out there. When he had singers, he had male and female singers. Miriam was a singer. Tambourine. He had men and women doing the same thing. So there is no disparity. God, you know, and that kind of disturbs me a little bit because people think that God made a big, yes, we have different roles. I know a lot of people don't really go along with that, you know, about women in ministry and the levels that they can go to. I basically I'm a traditional girl. I don't have a problem with leadership or whatever. I'm a traditional girl. Okay, he made men here and women there. But my thing is, I realize that doesn't mean that I'm inferior, that I don't have a brain, that I don't have an understanding, that I don't have an IQ. You know, we have to change our own perception of what we are. He did not make us inferior, ladies. Yes, Natalie, Miriam is the first famous female percussionist with that tambourine. She had all the women going. Exactly. Okay. Let me see. So Shanita says, yes, women are just as powerful as men in directing the choir when you have godly big pow. Boom. When God is leading you, it doesn't matter if you're male or female and you're living and the anointing of God is working through you. It doesn't matter. As long as you are doing what God called you to do, that's all it is. He didn't make one less inferior than the other. My pastor teaches that all the time. Women are not less inferior. That's a trick of the enemy, y'all. They made me go to Bible class. But that's a trick of the enemy to make you feel that and you know what? When you feel that way, that you are less equal than a man, then you always got to keep trying to do stuff, you know, like, I can do this, I can do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. I know where I am, okay? And I know I don't have to try to prove anything. When I step, you know, it doesn't matter. I know that God resides in me. I know that he's given me the gift of music to use it in his glory and his honor. When I step up to direct, I'm not worried about nothing. I just do what he given me to do because I realize who I am in God. And that's what we got to realize, ladies. I know they got the perceptions. Okay, yeah. That's what you say. But that ain't what God said. See, don't get me okay. Let me bring it down. Woo, let me bring it down. Eric Williams said, until now, I wasn't aware there is a gender equality in music ministry. This is so needed and informative. Well, thank you, sir. Demetri said, we are equal with different roles. Boom. We are equal. Yes, with different roles. That's all it is. We got different roles. And we know who you are. Demetri Pitts says, there is no competition in the kingdom. Boom. So why compete? Just do what you're gifted to do. That's it. That's all. Yes, ma'am. Matthew Levy said, it is the same with the role of a mother and the role of a father. Yes, both are extremely important and the child needs both. And when one is gone, the child is lacking. Boom, boom. Okay? Eric Williams says, he replying to Demetri, he said, absolutely. I need the skill set and the intellect. I mean, we work together. We work together, but I mean, really, as long as we know who we are and what God has called us to do, we just do you. Y'all got me sweating. Oh my goodness, y'all got me sweating. I'm working out like I'm trying not to really get, like all fired up, but y'all got me fired up. Vansha said, Vansha says, this topic tonight is great, especially for us fellows, because the vast majority of us would think and say that most choirs or chorus groups, especially in church, are led by ladies. Yes, and and he's right, and it's okay, whether it's men or women, it doesn't matter who's selected to be in charge. But what we have to do, and I think what we have allowed other ethnic groups, other nationalities, other society as a whole infiltrate us and change our mind as to how we perceive, respect one another. The Bible tells us in the pastoral epistles of Timothy and Titus, it tells us how to treat each other. And if we treat each other and do what the Bible says, then a lot of all this hoopla, we won't have this feeling of I'm doing a great job, but I'm not being received. If we respect one another and love one another the way the Bible tells us, then we won't have all of this going on. Everyone will feel respected in their roles, in their jobs, and we will get along and everything will move on righteously, the way God intended it. Does that make sense to everybody? But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy being a directress. I enjoy teaching music. I enjoy sharing with people. But I just think that we subconsciously got a lot of stuff going on. Stephanie said, do you have a book with this information? No, I'm just going from what's in my spirit, Stephanie. I'm sorry. You know what? I got so many things on the agenda that I need to do. You trying to dip in what people been telling me I need to do. Vansha says, God is not a respecter of persons, and we need to stop the disrespectful ways that we often display towards our sisters in leadership. Exactly. My thing is, as long as God gave it to you, he put that gift of music in you, you do that job to the best of your ability. Study your craft. Do your best. Learn. Don't stop and say, well, I'm here and I'm done, unless you retired. Okay, but as long as you are active in the music, keep up with the latest methods. Learn the Nashville method. I know, a lot of people are like, you need to know that. Because that's the way they communicate now. I see that more often than nobody got time to tell you what key it is. They assume that if you know the key, you know the 7 notes, the 7 chords rather, that is in there. Okay? But we need to have open spirits. We're not, and that I go back to that point that Demetri, I call her Lady of Wisdom. This is not a competition. Okay? And because we feel some kind of way inside, subliminally, we are in competition. I got to prove to you that I'm just as good as you are. No, you don't. Because look at it this way. No matter what we do or say or whatever. None of us are going to interpret it the same way. You understand what I'm saying? Music, like myself, I'm a musician. Demetria Brand Triplet is one. Our families are connected. You know, we grew up together. But if you heard her play and you heard me play, two different sounds. And people say we both sound good. She sounds great. But, you know, I got to practice. But two different sounds. And we all are different. So we won't ever really sound alike. We won't direct alike because your experiences have a lot to do with how you perceive things, how you display things, how they come out of you. Has a lot to do with it. Okay? So we're going to be different in a sense because we have different experiences. Our lives came through different scenarios. But the Word of God and the Spirit of God is that connector. And He works out through each of us in different ways, but it blesses everybody at the same time. You follow what I'm saying? Natalie said, yes, treating people the way you want to be treated eventually gets repaid. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Demetri Pitt said, it is also critical to learn from one another. Yes. Share your knowledge, wisdom, and experiences from everyone you encounter. She's retired, okay? Shanita said, I think it's time for you to write a book about this. Oh, my Lord. Okay. I'll write it on the list. Demetria Brand Triplet says, female organists are rare. While most male musicians and directors are respectful, in my situation, an untaught male director had the audacity to say that I would be prepared to play whatever he brings without letting the musicians know in advance. Yeah, that's a stickler. I am not one that listens to the radio, so I don't always know popular songs on the radio. However, the directors would always make sure we knew what was being practiced so that we can be prepared. And that's true. And you know what? That's the benefit of being on both sides of the aisle. You know, being a musician as well as a director. And generally they try to select somebody. If you're going to have them over a mass choir or something like that, you generally try to select somebody that has multiple sides to them. You know, they're not just a director and this is all they know how to do. They also are a musician. They also can sing. They also can teach. Because you know what? You need all of those pieces in order to make you well-rounded. You know? And then also, one thing we need to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're in a subordinate role and you're coming up the ladder under people and you see them do things like she mentioned about the director that didn't prepare them before the rehearsal. When you notice things like that, good or bad, when you rise to that level, those things that you should have enough wisdom and understanding not to take those things and use them. You know, like me as being a female, if I come up the rough side and I've had issues and things like that and people mistreated me and didn't respect me for my role and whatever. Now, as coming up, as I'm, a directress in training. But when I receive that level where they make me the head of the music department, all of those experiences should come into play. If I know what it's like for me not to get the music on time, to practice for rehearsal, then when I'm up in that leadership role, what should I do? Make sure that everybody has everything ahead of time because I know what it feels like. When you've been on all sides of it, it's almost like, I tell some directors that they need a choir directors training program where you work in all areas of the music department, even administration, so that you will have an understanding of what you're dealing with. And a lot of times when you have all of that information with you, you'd be surprised how it settles you on the inside. It does. It settles you on the inside. What is Bansha doing? Okay, I'm going to keep on going. Yes, Demetri, get Bansha. Natalie says, yes, you have to be empathetic to people that you're working with. Exactly. You do. And you take all of your lessons that you learn and you use them to your advantage. And like I said, all of the information that you get, all of your experiences, use that to propel you to greatness. Don't fall into the trap of reacting. Don't be reactive, you know. And that's everybody, male or female. Don't study to refrain from being reactive to everything. Some things there are times that you do need to speak up. I'm not going to deny that. There are times you need to speak up. And then there are times where just your look will let them know, whoops. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You just look at them and they know, so the key is that you need wisdom in dealing with those situations. Okay. Demetrius says, being multi-talented within the music ministry helps when emergencies arise. Sickness and death is unexpected. So having people that can cross over is a blessing. Absolutely. Hey, Linda, good to see you. Stephanie says, should choir directors have music given out before rehearsal? I would say that's yes. Yes, that is the best. You know why? Because it reduces the level of frustration when you in rehearsal. Now, it's going to take time for you to get everybody on board. It takes a minute because folks, help me, Lord, but folks are inherently lazy. You have to train, and then I'm going to read Demetri Pitt's question. You have to kind of train, you have to change and train the choir to new methods. Okay? You should have a rehearsal with your musicians separate from the choir. But they both should get the music ahead of time. Especially if you're doing new material. Now, if you're reviewing something old, you might be able to, like, All in His Hand. Everybody across the country know All in His Hand. Well, you may not need to tell them ahead of time, we're going to practice on All in His Hand. Now, you might, or you can just send out a quick test that this is the list of songs we're going over. You already know these, but we're going to go over these in rehearsal. But, it's a process where you have to train your choir to do that. So you may start them out, tell them go to YouTube, and do this and give them the song. Put it on them to take some pride. Because I find, now I don't know about the other directors, but I find that when you give it to them and give them kind of, not really a homework assignment, but you want them to get in the habit of preparing themselves before they come. Because most people, when they think in term rehearsal, they just come empty, no prep. You got to pray, you got to read them, you got to talk them up, you got to do all this. It's too much work for you. Okay? So, Stephanie, I encourage you to do that. Natalie says, band rehearsal outside of choir rehearsal also builds up your team. Yes, it does. Demetri Pitt says, we need to know with whom we're working with. Everyone wasn't raised or trained in the same manner. Yes. Demetria Brand Triplet says, when musicians have music ahead of time, we can actually practice and prepare. I detest having to learn a song during rehearsal. Definitely a new song. That's hard. So give the music out. I think we kind of beat that one to her. Hey, Professor John Henry. But yeah, Stephanie, as much as you can do to prepare your choir and your band before rehearsal, do that. If this is a process that you're just starting, it may take a little while for them to get on board, but once they get on board with it, it'll be a breeze for you. You'll see a tremendous difference with a choir that comes in prepared versus one coming in waiting on you to do it. It'll take stress off of you. It does. I'm telling you, I do that not only with my local church choir, but I do it with the jurisdictional choir, which has a tremendous amount of way more musicians, way more singers and directors and everybody. I don't have the time to come to rehearsal when we got over 200 some people that actually sings faithfully during the conventions. I don't have time to sit there and try to work myself up. No, I give the music out a month ahead of time and let you know when we rehearsal. So when we come, you are already ready, But once you get them in that mode, it's much easier. It takes stress off of you. That's what you need to do. Take the stress off of you so that you can rest and relax and do a better job. Okay? Natalie says, YouTube is a lifesaver, but if you're teaching something you write or arrange, the choir has to become disciplined enough to pay attention. Exactly. And that's why I'm saying, for me, I got them to the point where they are able to pick out their own part. When they hear a song, I've trained the sopranos, the altos, and the tenors to the point that when they hear a song, they automatically know how to harmonize and find their note, harmonize. Everybody knows how to step up. So I don't have that much of an issue, so that when I do teach an a cappella song that I arrange, it's easier for them to catch on because they know how to, I'm saying cue up, but they know how to harmonize with the group, with the voice next to them. I hope that makes sense. John Henry says that volunteers. Yeah, true. So you try to make it as easy. When you're dealing with volunteers, you have to try to make things as easy as possible because they're not getting paid. And that's a whole nother shenanigan. If you ever work with paid singers, that's a whole nother shenanigan right there. Professor Henry says the band should have time to prepare, but if they are too busy or too in demand, problems occur. That's true. And that's why you have to have a generation coming up behind that. Don't just get comfortable with the mainstays, the team, A team. Start developing a B team, a C team, so that when those that are not as popular as the A team people, you got somebody to fill in. That's the worst thing. That's we do that in the church. We don't mean to, but sometimes we get that group, we get that band that just jail with what we doing. They know exactly what to do. But what happens if they have to be called to go away? Then you got to keep, you don't want to keep building. I'm at the process, I got to build again. So that's why I'm sharing with you. Keep the teams developing and growing. You got an A team group. Great. Build a B team and a C team and a D team. Have as many teams as you possibly can. Demetri Pitt said, whoever the minister of music is should be the one to set the standard and the protocol for dealing with the musical staff. Exactly. That's part of the job. And as the head of the music department, minister of music, director of music, whichever one, you need to be settled and mature yourself. You can't be one of these fly off the handle people every time something go on. You can't be like that. You have to be solid and stable if nobody else is. If everybody else running around crazy, somebody got to stand there and say, yo, hold up. Everybody, pipe down, pull it in. This is not working today. And it's not working next week either. Somebody's got to do that. Okay? Professor Henry says every choir band will not be able to sing every song like the original. That's true. You have to know their strengths and their weaknesses. You do. Sometimes transparent moment, I used to change the song to fit the voice. Like I would, if the song was sang in B flat, I would drop it down to A flat. But then I thought, after a while, I kind of I don't like that. I want to develop them and not have them to be lazy, to be able to sing. And then, of course, as Professor Henry says, I pick songs that I know they can do, that's within their purview or within their range that they can do comfortably with minimum amount of work or even maximum. Some of the a cappella songs, like Elijah Rock, when they get their chorus, they start out, but then they do that expanded vocal range. I think it's like 4, especially when you're doing with the bass. That takes a little bit more than the simple King Jesus is a listening a cappella. It takes a little bit more. So you have to train them up to do that. Let me see. I got some more. Natalie says, and have an A team mentor the B team. Exactly. Use everybody. There's so much work in the music department to do. We didn't kind of veer it off the topic, but ladies, I'm giving you ideas to help you out so that you won't feel that way. You're very powerful, and there's so much wisdom and knowledge in you and things that you can do and grow, and use it to your advantage. Use it to your advantage. Demetri Pitt said, now, I have a problem with folks using the word volunteers. I told a group that I work with, if you can't volunteer your best, then you are not committed to this process. We must stop allowing folks to use the excuse of volunteer to operate in mediocrity. That's true. That's another derivative of that point. That's true. But, and we have to set that standard and let them know. And that's true. But, even if that depends on the director, Because if the director is such a person that operates in a standard of excellence, then a lot of times the ones that don't want to come up to that level are going to fall out. You're going to wash them out, just like in the military. You know, you put in, what is that called, basic training, and they get too rough for them, and then you flush them out. I've done that, where I had to flush people out, because I know the level of singing that I require. My choir has never been that big. I mean, I think the maximum my choir that I take traveling with me when I go out singing may have been 15 people. That was the max. And I mean, these people sing. I work with them, training them how to hold a note, how to resonate, how to do all of that. And anybody that know me, that have heard my choir sing, will tell you, it sounded like it was 50 people up there. I'm very, very, now when it's a mass choir and we got a whole bunch of folks singing, okay. But when it comes to, when you going with me and they calling me up to sing, and this is all I'm doing, and you better be in tune. That's just how I am. Professor Henry says Chicago Mass and Mississippi Mass yes, they are easy songs to learn. Demetri Pitt says, ladies, as my uncle taught me, cover all the ground that you walk on. Yep. Once you, and I'm going to wrap this up, but once you develop the understanding, ladies, once you develop the understanding and know who you are, and learn not to be reactionary to everything, okay? Use the wisdom that God has given you, develop that, and encourage, grow, mature. You'll be surprised at the wealth of knowledge and talent and gift and anointing that is in you that will come out. We have to learn to disconnect ourselves from our emotions. It's hard. It's hard because sometimes you look at folk and you really, you raising both eyebrows and crossing the eyes and you about ready to dot somebody's T. But you have to learn that's not the proper way to go. Learn to disconnect your emotions. You know what you're up against. You know what you're facing. Don't take it personal. I know it's hard. But you know what? When you've been in that environment, you learn. You can't take it personal, because if you take it personal, you're going to react. And you're going to, you know what I'm saying? You're going to react. And it's not going to be pretty when you do that. So to my sister that sent that to me, yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are not always treated fairly. But take those things that were discussed, all of these great comments that you heard on tonight, take all of that, internalize it, and put it into play. Let it become a part of you, and it will help you out. You'll be surprised how much better and how much easier it is to manage and to work with a choir and to develop a choir. And you know what? Honestly, when people begin to see how you are, then, when you first start out, you have some ripples. You have people like, whatever. But after they get to see a consistency in you, that you are consistently on point, and you know what? It's not a forced consistency. You know what I'm saying? It's just innate. God has sent you through so many things, and it's just a part of your fiber, and it's just innate. You just operate in excellence because it's just in you. And when you do that, the crowd, they'll come around and they'll recognize there's something different. It goes deeper than what we see with her. Demetri Triplet says, dealing with people from a young age, you learn to disconnect and operate as a chameleon. Stay calm and express yourself later. Yeah, a lot of times we have to do that. And I still do that now. Sometimes I have to do that. I have to just walk away and, sit there and don't react. Sometimes and I thank God for the Holy Ghost. Sometimes he give me lockjaw. And they sitting there looking at me. They know, if you could probably feel the heat coming from my body. But, I'm just going to sit there and be like, Lord Jesus, bless me. And, sometimes you have to do that. As leaders, you can't, you kind of cock that head to the side and say, okay, Lord, where you at? All right. Demetri Pitt says, exactly, Demetri, I use the spirit of ignore when then I regroup and address it later. Exactly. things need to be redressed, but it's always best to address things. Never let them see you sweat. Exactly. Address the issue after you calmed down. Calm down. A few decibels, bring it down from 15 down to 3. And then you'll be able to talk to them without the emotion, without, all of this fanfare or whatever. Okay? So I hope, my sister, I gave you some elaboration. I think, Stephanie, I hope I answered your question. And if not, just review all of the comments that you had. And if you do, just shoot me a message like you did before. And I will talk to you on that separately offline. Thank you, everybody. Oh, my goodness. For all of the comments, all the well wishes, all of the... Well, thank you, Demetrius. Thank you so much. Thank you all. You all commented and hung out with me, and I appreciate it. I really do. And I hope that something was said. One Lady Bridget Plater said, I hope I help you today get through whatever your issue was. I enjoyed the show actually myself. And I'm glad to know that you all did. And next week, I have a major convention next week. And actually, I'll be one of the speakers on next week. So you won't see me. I'm trying to get my little 15 words together. So you all keep the girl in prayer. Okay? Yeah, next week. And then the following week, I have one of my friends who is he just got released from being the director of music of one of the mega churches in Ohio. He's going to come through here that final week and do the show for us. When I stepped into this role as the music president, thank you, Professor Tim. Demetri, I'm glad your choir was helped. That makes me feel better. But he just got elevated to pastor. He was the director of music for the Light Church, a mega church, a huge church in Ohio. And when I stepped into the role of music president, I talked to him for about an hour, and my God, this man deposited so much information and just really helped me get focused, because this is a huge undertaking. A local church choir is one thing. A jurisdictional choir is something else. And oh my God, he poured into me. And he's going to come into the show in 2 weeks, and he's going to do something. And I'm trying to get my buddy, Professor Tim Terry. He has a gospel music show that comes on Monday. Professor Tim, can you put that information down there? He brings in that old choir songs from the past, because he helped me out for Easter. He was playing some songs, some good songs. But thank you all so much for joining me on tonight. I'm glad you all enjoyed the show, because I enjoyed you being with me. And we will be back in 2 weeks with a special guest. Until then, you all have a lovely evening. I thank God for you. Have a great weekend. Love y'all, and peace.